Hi, welcome everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Rebecca Singer. I'm part of the public programming team at Hillwood Estate Museum and Gardens in Washington, D.C. And I'm so delighted that we can all gather virtually today to welcome spring with floral design together. I am, of course, joined here by Ami Wilber, who is Hillwood's floral and event decor designer. Ami joined Hillwood in 2016 and has extensive experience with floral design. We're going to turn things over to Ami in just a moment, but I first wanted to share a few quick notes with everyone today. First of all, as many of you know, as all of you know, perhaps Hillwood is beautiful in any time of year, but this is absolutely an amazing time to be exploring at Hillwood when so many things are in bloom and the spring weather is here. So I certainly hope that those of you in the DC area will come and visit soon. Our current exhibition, Determined Women Collectors, Artists, Designers at Hillwood, is open through June 18th. So you have a few more months to catch that exhibition, and we hope you come and join us for that. And again, just before I turn us over to Ami, some quick notes about today's class. Ami is going to walk us through making an arrangement step by step. While Ami is doing her demonstration, please submit your questions through the chat as they come to you. And then when there are pauses throughout the demo, I'll be able to use that moment to relay your questions to Ami that you put in the chat. At the end of our demo, we're going to invite everyone to share your arrangement. If you're following along at home and making your own arrangement at the end of the demo, we invite you to turn your camera on. You're welcome to work with your camera on or wait till the end to share, whichever feels best to you. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Ami. Welcome, Ami.
Great. Thank you, Rebecca. And welcome, everyone. And this is the Welcome to Spring workshop today. And one of the things I wanted to really try and capture with today's workshop was what is going on out in the gardens. And so that's why we're going to be using a lot of seasonal blooms, and we're going to be using flowering branches as well. Just really quick, Rebecca, can you spotlight my video? Great. Thank you so much. All right. So now that I can actually see what's going on, I will start to go through this step by step. It's a little bit different today with our arrangement. For those of you who did material pickups today, you'll notice that you have this big glass clear vase, but it has no chicken wire in it or anything. Because today what we're going to do is we're using branches, and we're going to use our branches in our greenery as a way to stabilize the flowers today. So this is also a good sort of lesson, I guess you could say, as a way to just learn a different way to arrange flowers without using the support of any kind of floral foam or any chicken wire or tape or anything like this, that you know, when you're selecting a container to create an arrangement, it often helps to understand, you know, if you are going to be using a support mechanism like chicken wire or like a Kenzen or anything else, or if you're going to just kind of wing it and then use the materials that you have to do your arrangement with. So if you are thinking that you want to do something where you're not going to use any kind of support, look for something that is going to be kind of tall and then narrow across the top, because this will actually help to then sort of fill up your arrangement with other things and keep it relatively stable. If you have something that's really wide, you're going to notice that it's going to be a little bit harder to get your flowers to stay in place. That's why for today we have this sort of long and narrow base. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is, of course, fill my container with water. I have just regular tap water, but if you have, you know, any of those little floral packets or anything, definitely feel free to add those in as well. The one thing that is really good, kind of easy about clear glass vase is that you can see where the water level is, and then you can always sort of check on this to make sure that your container is filled with water. Now, because there is no mechanism that's in this, I recommend not trying to re-dump the water out and put it back in. You might just want to go ahead and just fill up your water as it starts to go down instead of like changing out the water completely, just because there isn't anything, again, to really hold the flowers in place, so that you're going to want to just kind of, it's going to be a little bit more precarious to try and empty and change out the water that way. I have my container on a lazy Susan. If you can see, she's rotating around, which is, I think, a really easy way, especially when you're doing an all-sided arrangement. You can really get a good sense of what's going on with your arrangement without having to physically move it. So, you know, it's a relatively inexpensive investment that I think works phenomenally. Today, I actually have some pruning shears with me, along with my floral shears. And I'm going to be using my pruning shears just because some of the cherry branches are a little bit big and they're a little bit difficult to cut with the regular floral shears, although I can cut them with it, but it just makes it a little bit easier. So for today, I just wanted to go over our greens and our materials really quick. So I have right here, I have this pittosporum. This is a variegated pittosporum. The sort of focal today are these cherry blossoms. Oopsie, you can see that. This year, for anyone who is in the DC area, the cherry blossoms were very early to hit peak. So there aren't actually that many cherry blossoms in bloom right now, except for the double bloom cherry blossoms. Those are sort of the later ones to actually open up and bloom. So it is kind of fun that we have the double cherry blossoms that we're using in our arrangement, and then also the double cherry blossoms that are in bloom throughout the city right now. I think they're almost to the end. And then we have some tulips. And right now the tulips at Hillwood are in full bloom and they look absolutely amazing. So we have tulips to represent what's going on in the gardens right now. We also have hyacinth, and then we also have some daffodils. The daffodils are sort of on their tail end of being in bloom in the cutting garden, while the tulips are sort of in their full bloom right now. All right, so like I said, we're going to be doing this without the support of anything. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my greenery. So again, because this is a really clear vase, you're going to want to strip all of the leaves off of the stems so that you have a nice clean stem that's going to go into your vase. I'm going to cut everything at a nice sharp 45-degree angle so that there is a lot more surface area for the water to get into and absorbed in. So again, I'm going to start by using my pittosporum to just kind of fill up the container. And I'm doing this as a way to, again, create a support that will be in place of the chicken wire. Again, you can see I'm stripping everything, all the leaves off, so that we have, again, a nice, really clean stem that's going to go in. And I'm going to start crisscrossing my greeneries, or my stems, I'm sorry. So if you can see in here into that vase, you can see that I'm going and I'm kind of starting to cross my stems as I go in. And again, this is also going to be a good way to support the flowers that go in. I am having everything in terms of my greenery and my branches come all the way down to the bottom of the container. It just gives it a little bit more support instead of having it cut and only having it halfway reach the container. That way it won't flop around quite as much, because when you have it actually touching the bottom of the container, it'll help to support it a little bit more. So again, with this pittosporum, you can see that there's a lot of green at the bottom of the stem. So again, I'm going in and I'm just cleaning off all that bottom leaves to have a nice naked stem. I'm going to do my greenery slightly different heights. So I'm going to have a little bit taller and then mostly though shorter pieces to really kind of support the bottom. But again, I am going to keep this relatively asymmetrical-ish. So I can tell that we're going to have a little bit of an issue being able to see this whole thing because she's going to get a little big. But I will move the camera around so that you'll be able to kind of see everything that's going on. But again, I'm really trying to, figure out placement and really have these stems crisscrossing in my water. So again, you can see that I am still taking the time to try and create a bit of asymmetrical sort of line, a diagonal line with my greenery that is going to be throughout the whole container. If you have anything weird, like this naked thing right in here, just snip that off. And so the other thing that you can do is kind of figure out how tall you want this by just holding the stem to the bottom of where the container is and know that, okay, it's going to be right here. But I'm going to want it shorter. So that's why it's good to kind of hold that up. I'm going to cut it now shorter so that I have some greenery that's really close in and sort of tucked in to the container. So you can see that I want this to even be a little bit shorter than that so that it is coming like really down close to the center here. And when I submerge that, I can see that there are a lot of leaves that are going to still be in the water. So I'm going to pull those out. You can see that I'm still just trying to really fill in a lot of this bottom area. And I'm going in with all of my greens. So sometimes I hold back with some of the greens, but right now I'm going in and I'm doing all of the greens. And again, I'm doing this because I really am trying to create a good layer and like a supportive base for the rest of my flowers. And I'm making this all-sided, just forgot to mention that. So this is going to be an all-sided arrangement, which is why I am looking at the front and at the back, making sure that it's greened relatively similar on both sides. So this is my last piece of pittosporum. I'm going to put it in here. So really what I've done, I'm going to hold this back a little bit, is I've made this sort of crisscross with the stems in the vase. And I've also created a little bit of a line still with my greenery so that it's not just, all kind of like chubbied in there, but there's a little bit of a longer piece out here that's extending down this way to that side. You can see that. So it does give it a little bit of a line or a shape that way. All right, I'm going to move on to my cherry blossoms. If there are any questions about greenery right now, let me know. Otherwise, we will continue on. All right, and I can tell already that I'm gonna need to really bring this back a little bit. So I'm going to try something out for just a second. All right, so you can see that this is, maybe I'll just bring this up just a little bit. Put my book onto my stool. All right, so you can kind of see, like, here's our container here. Typically, when you are creating an arrangement, you always want to think of your flowers and your stems to be 1.5 times the height of your container. But because we're working with these cherry blossoms, we're going to make it a little bit more dramatic. So some of these branches are going to be a lot taller than just 1.5 times the container. But because it is like a really solid container and it's got some heft to it, we don't need to worry about it tipping over too much. So I'm not gonna, go really super top heavy, but I am gonna allow at least for like 1 or 2 branches to like really come up high to kind of give this a really dramatic effect. When I was looking at some of these cherry blossoms that I have some that are like in full bloom, but I have this one that's not even quite in bloom yet, but it's like very interesting. I like the shape of it. So I'm gonna use this. I don't know if you can see, but you can kind of see how it's this lovely curve. So I'm gonna use this, even though it doesn't have any blooms, but I do like the shape of it. I'm gonna, again, cut this with my snips. Nice, sharp 45-degree angle. And then I'm gonna go in, again, I want my stem to touch the bottom of the glass. But as you can see, like just from the greenery, that it really is kind of holding on its own. So that even though, there's no chicken wire or anything, it's really forming and holding where I want it to go. All right, but now I have some other beautiful cherry blossoms. Like, look at this gal. She's lovely. So I'm gonna wanna trim off some of this bottom part here because I'm gonna use this for something else. This little stem I might use in like a little bud container, something like that. But this is what I want. So I have these beautiful blooms. I have this beautiful arching shape. I'm going to go ahead and use that, but I'm going to put it in the other side to create this angle coming up this way and this angle going out that way. Again, I want it to touch the bottom of the vase. And I'm going to just put it in towards the center. And again, I'm kind of crisscrossing the branch with the other branch in the bottom. I've gotten a little bit of leaves in the bottom, but I'll have to fix that later. But again, so now I have this kind of V shape going on. And if you look at this side, it has some lovely cherry blossoms right there. So again, I'm going to go in now and just kind of start to fill in with my cherry blossoms. This one, actually, all of the blooms have already left, but it's starting to leaf. I really enjoy that, so I'm going to use that as well. It doesn't all have to be just cherry blossoms. I'm going to put this in Again, I'm really starting out the center, and then I'm sort of pulling the branches to where I want them to go. I'm going to have to cut off these bottom ones here. And I want this to be a little bit shorter. And really just kind of using the branches all around. Again, I'm going to be using these branches also as a way to then hold other blooms in place. So I've got this, oopsie, really tall gal here that I'm going to cut off some of these bottom ones. And I'm just going to use that. And I'm really trying to make it kind of dramatic with these cherry blossoms. I'm going to take this smaller one. This is just like one little stick, little pom-pom at the end, which is kind of fun. I'm going to stick that in towards the bottom. It's got a little bit of heft, I think. I want to create that. Oopsie. All right. I'm going to come around to this side now so that I can add in some cherry blossoms going this way. I have some that are still in bud, but I'm holding on to these. I might save these for later. I also have this one, again, that has no blossoms on it, but it's still kind of interesting. So I might hold on to that one. But I definitely want to use, oopsie, not you. Oops. I want to use these blossoms here to really kind of take up a little bit of space. I've cut that down. All right. I'm just going to add in one more branch of cherry blossoms right here. It's going to be this one. All right. Oopsie. So I think for now, I'm good with my cherry blossoms. I have some that are left over like this. I'm going to hang on to these for just a second and figure out, I might put these in a little bit towards the end. But for now, I have my cherry blossoms in place where I want them to be. Before we move on to our next flower, are there any questions? You guys are working busily. Okay. So I'm gonna, I have this, which I really like, but there's like a cut right here. So I'm gonna cut really close to it so that you don't quite see it as much. I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna stick it in, but I wanna hide this cut here. So I'm gonna put it in and then kind of cover it up with the pittosporum so that you don't really even end up seeing that cut. But now we have this nice little bobble down there. Next thing I want to do is go in with my hyacinth, because my hyacinth are going to take up some room and they're going to be a little bit thicker. The other thing with the hyacinths is that they'll really start to open up a little bit more, which will be nice. So you want to use that more towards the bottom. I also like to think of this in terms of if you were looking at a garden and you're looking at the different layers of the flowers. The hyacinths are always sort of like down towards the ground, and then you have like the tulips and the daffodils kind of coming up from that. So we're going to take that same aesthetic and sort of structure in here as well. Again, I'm going to still cut everything nice, sharp 45-degree angle. Now, because these stems are much shorter, they're not going to go in all the way, but that's going to be okay because they're going to be able to now be held from all of this other greenery. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of spatter them along in here. And your hyacinths will continue to grow as well. And this, I'm going to just go sort of front and back and have them kind of on opposing sides. So I have one here and I have one here. And I like to always use the rule of odd numbers and kind of triangulate patterns with these other blooms. So I have 1, 2 here. I'm going to put one down here. And I'm looking at my container and I'm making sure that my stem is actually in the water. I'm also looking at my container and I see there are a lot of leaves in here already, and the water is already turned a little bit murky, but that's just the way it goes. We'll figure out if we can kind of pour it out and keep it in place so that we can change out the water so it looks a little bit more fresh. Okay, so I have 3 in so far. I do want one that's going to be kind of up here to kind of bring the dark color up into this area as well. So I'm going to look for my longest one that I have, and I'm going to place her kind of in the middle here. Again, I'm looking at my container. I can see that the stem is in the water, so that's fine. And she's staying right there just like that. And again, this is with no floral support. So we have one more hyacinth. I'm actually going to, there we go. I'm gonna trim this right here because it's really blocking. Yeah, we don't want to block out that hydrangea or that hyacinth. It's pretty. Okay, so I have one more. I think I'm gonna put the last one over here on this side. So again, I've made these kind of triangles with my hyacinths. Okay, so as you can see, I've kind of spattered the hyacinth around so that we have a nice sort of dark color there towards the bottom of the arrangement. I'm actually going to fix this one. She's not quite cooperating exactly how I'd like her to. So I'm going to put something in right here to kind of support this a little bit. So I'm going to go in now with one of these little shorty cherry blossom sticks that I kind of held on to, and I'm going to wedge that in down into there so that you can kind of, oops. So you can see where I put that cherry blossom in down towards the bottom of the hyacinth, and that's now kind of supporting her to stay up where I want it to go. And that's why it's good to kind of hang on to these little shorty stems because they can come in handy to then help prop up some other blooms if they need that. All right, before we move on to our next guest that's going to go into the vase, does anyone have any questions? You guys are good? Okay. All right, let's trudge on through. So the next thing that we're going to do is go in with our tulips. And I have peeled back all of the greenery from my tulip one leaf. And sometimes I'll even take off that one leaf, but I like how this leaf is curling. So I'm actually going to just leave her as is. But you do want to take off all that sort of bottom greenery of the tulip. And this one has this lovely shape. I don't know how that ended up happening, but I'm going to use that. And I'm going to have my tulips come up higher than my hyacinth. So again, these are now going to, you want to think about the garden. The tulips are up sort of above the hyacinth. So I'm going to place all of my tulips up above and coming out from the arrangement. This one also, I don't know what happened here, but it's fine. We'll use that to our advantage. I'm going to do the same thing I did with the hyacinth. I'm going to think about, using this rule of odd numbers. And can't even see where I put that, can you? So I put that down there. And I'm going to start to triangulate again. So I've got 1, 2. I'm going to put that third one here for 3. And like this one, I don't like this leaf. It's already turning yellow. So I am going to have a naked tulip stem. But again, so I have 1, 2, and then 3 is going to go here. And when I'm putting these stems in, I'm putting them all in at a slight angle so that they're not just going straight up and down. But so now I have 3 there. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side as well. I'm going to take off some of these leaves because I don't think that they're going to end up folding out well. So now I'm going to go 1, 2. I'm going to bring this one out down here. I like to have different depths of my flowers to create a little bit more dimensionality, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word or not, but I like it to, not be at all of the same depth, so that I have my hyacinths tucked in a little bit. I have my tulips kind of coming out from there. And then I have the cherry blossoms as kind of my frosting that's at the very tip of the arrangement. And the other fun little thing about these tulips is that they will continue to grow and they will continue to stretch towards the light, so that if you like what you have today, take a picture of it, because tomorrow, most likely your tulips are all going to be sticking straight up and doing something that you did not design, but that's just what they do. And that's kind of the fun of them as well. Okay, so again, as you can see, I'm doing these at all sort of like different depths. I've kind of ignored the side area, so I might just continue to ignore that because it's filled with green, so I think that's fine. But like this side area looks a little bit naked, so I'm going to add in a little bit of color right there. And this one you can see is starting to open. The other thing you can do, if you, are just doing something for a picture or just for like a one-day event, you can take your tulip and you can gently push down at the bottom and you can open up the petals. So what I'm doing again is I am holding here and I'm gently opening up the petals. So this is kind of a fun thing. Again, if you wanted to have something look showy today, but I'm just gently tapping the back of these petals to then open up the tulip. And then you have this lovely open tulip. And then I'm going to put her right here because it seems to be a bit of a bald spot of color. So I'm going to go in and just kind of shove her right in there like that. All right, I have a couple more tulips. I'm going to see where I need a little shot of color. I want to put something right here. Okay, so as you can see, like that's really sticking in there well. So we've really kind of filled up this area, and it is working out nicely that it is holding all of the blooms where I want them to be held. So the last thing I'm going to do is go in with my daffodils. And the one thing you want to think about with your daffodils is what I typically will do is I do not cut them. I'm going to leave them as is and hope that they're going to be the height that I want them to be. Because what happens is when you cut the daffodil, it oozes this sort of syrupy thing. There's probably a better, more technical word for it, but I'm going to call it little daffodil syrup for now. And it can poison the other flowers. So this is something that I've played around with, both cutting them, not cutting them. I personally don't notice any difference if I cut them and then put them in with the other flowers, or if I don't cut them and put them in with the other flowers, they all seem to hold up fine. But for today, since I know that I want them to definitely hold up for you, I'm not going to cut them, and I'm going to leave them the length that they are and work around that to then add them in at the end. Again, I don't know, does it shorten the life of the other flowers that it comes in contact with? Maybe it doesn't. But again, for today, since I want your arrangements to last you for at least a week, we're not going to cut them. So again, I am just leaving the stem as is, and I'm going to then plug in my daffodils. And I like the daffodils, not to always be facing front like this. I like them off to the side. Makes it look like they're having a little conversation with the cherry blossom over here. And then some of them, of course, you do want to have seen, in their frontal view because they are so lovely. And again, I'm just gently coaxing this down to where I want it to go. And I'm putting this at 2 different heights, as you can see. So I have this one a little bit shorter than this one here. I'm going to turn it around, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side. And again, if your daffodil is not quite open, you can always just sort of pull this little papery thing down and then just gently open up the petals a little bit. You can give it a little blow, and it will also open them up as well. And like this one, you can already see she's kind of doing her own curvy thing. So I'm going to use that to my advantage. And put that in. Again, this is the other thing that's great about this clear container is I can see perfectly that the stem is in the water. So I don't need to worry about whether it's in the water or not. And I'm going to sort of just have this cluster of yellow more in the center. I really like having these open spaces with the arrangement so that you can also see through to the other side as well. So I don't want to really cluster this up too much, but I am going to put one more daffodil up in here, sort of in the center area. So I do think it's really pretty, the orange next to the yellow. I'm going to do another one down here. And I really feel like this is going to be just about it. I also feel like I'm at capacity with how much more I can really shove me in here. I don't like that right there. Move that. I want this to be more like down here to give it a little bit of depth. So I'm actually going to look for a shorter one, which is this one, even though she's not quite open yet. She will open soon. And I want that to come down in here. I'm going to stick my finger in the vase a little bit and kind of push these greeneries down to the side so I can then easily slide in this last one to where it needs to go. And I want it to be right there. So I am pretty happy with the way it all came out. But again, I have these extra cherry blossom things left. I don't want to put those to waste by any means. I'm like, look at the natural curvy of this. I'm going to add these in now at the end. So I'm going to just look for my places that I feel could use like a little bit more oomph, or places that look like they're not quite, even. Like I feel like this is a little bit flat right here. So I want something to come out a little bit more. So I'm going to add in just a couple more cherry blossom branches to give it a little bit of depth coming out this way. Actually, this one, I'm going to move this one and I'm going to put it here. So that, again, this has some more depth. A little bit more dimensionality, because now there's like something going on over there. So I want to do that same thing on this side as well. I have this tulip here that's doing that. Just rearrange that a little bit. I have this tulip that's coming out, but I do want something that's going to come out right about there. So I'm going to take this one and have it kind of come out. Like that. All right, I have this gal who is not quite in bloom yet, but she will be. So that'll be fun. I'm going to put this up a little bit taller also, so that when some of these start to go out of flower, this one will then be in flower, and then these will fall off and they'll be starting to green. All right, I don't think I can put these little ones in, so I'm going to put these into a little bud vase and save that for later. But for now, we have our arrangements. It's a little bit hard to see all the way up at the top, but I'm going to try and do a little background so that you can see that. Oopsie. All right, and then I'm going to turn it around so you can see the other side. Just like this isn't even in it. She's so tall out there that you can't really even see the end of it. All right, let's try that. Okay, so then that's our other side. And again, you can kind of see the bottom here. Oopsie. And I actually think that the flowers are relatively sturdy in here, that you would be able to just go and pour out from the side to refill the water. But really, check and see. Like if it feels like it's tight and feels like everything's kind of secure in there, I would go ahead and just, replace the water that way, but just pouring it out, holding it still, and then replacing the water in. But if it doesn't feel like it's that sturdy, then definitely don't do that. Then just kind of, leave it as is. All right. Cherry blossoms are big. I'm actually going to put it back here. It's easier to see this way. Kind of. A little bit better. A little bit. All right. What questions do you have?
I don't think we see any questions in the chat today, Amy, but that's a beautiful arrangement. And I think we're at the conclusion of our demo portion today. So if there's anyone, I've been seeing people working on your arrangements all along, following along with Amy. If there's anyone who's ready to share, just give me a wave and I'll spotlight you so everyone can see. Oh, and we do have a question now in the chat. What would you use if you can't get cherry blossoms?
So I would do any kind of branch scenario. So you could do forsythia, you could do quince. Although if you do quince, just be forewarned that they have little thorns on them. They're a little prickly. You could do pussy willow. So anything really that's like nice and branchy is what makes the arrangement sort of stabilize with the greenery to help not have a floral structure in the inside. So again, any kind of blooming branch, it doesn't even have to be a blooming branch. If there's forsythia that's already, passed and it's just greenery at this point, you could do that as well too.
Great, and it looks like we've got a second question, but also before we do that, I have spotlighted. I'm sorry, Kathy. I don't have your name.
Sorry, Kathy.
Hi, Kathy. That's beautiful.
Hi. I didn't have the greens either, but I put in some dwarf magnolia from my backyard and some long stalks of azalea bush.
Oh, wonderful.
So these are long azaleas. So they were kind of so it didn't really give the big full, it gave a nice base, but it didn't give, a real full thing, but I think it worked. So
no, that's fantastic. And that was something else I was going to say. I'm not certainly allowed to cut any of them, but if you have azaleas right now, our azaleas are starting to bloom, and they would also be a lovely way that you could even do sort of high and low blooming branches, so that you could take some of the azaleas, that aren't quite in full bloom yet, and like use those lower to give yourself a base, and then use some of the azalea bushes, the branches a little bit higher up to give you blooming ones. But like I said, I don't cut any of the azaleas. I'm not allowed near this.
Yeah.
That looks
and I also just made it one dimension, just from this side, one-sided, because
perfect. Well, it's gorgeous. I'm glad that you're able to
thank you.
Use alternative greens. So I really appreciate that.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. That is beautiful. I see we've got a couple of other folks who are ready to share. And as I'm starting to spotlight them, because I see both, we'll go to Julia next and then Sylvia. But while I'm starting to spotlight Julia, I've got two questions here also.
Okay.
Shelly Jackson asks, similar to not being able to get the cherry blossoms, I could not find hyacinth. What's a good substitute for that?
Okay. So if you can't find hyacinth, again, you want to think of like a lower sort of fuller bloomed flower. So you could do hydrangea. You could do, even if you went to like Trader Joe's or something like that. You could do carnations, or you just want something that you're going to cut kind of short, but that has like a little bit of volume at the bottom. But I would say like hydrangea would be a really good alternative, because you can get it in that kind of blue color to keep sort of with the color theme as well. But yeah, anything really that's going to be a little bit more poofy. You could even go in with like roses, like spray roses or tea roses, that kind of a thing.
Thanks. I did wind up getting like a lime green, almost hydrangea.
Perfect. Yeah.
And I don't know if you can see this, but this, I don't know what this is, but it was just so weird and so beautiful. So I got this.
I don't see.
Hold on, let me try to put.
Oh, it's Protea. Yeah, so that's perfect. Yeah, again, so like, again, if you're doing something, you're really thinking in terms of the base. You want to think something that's going to be a little bit kind of, you know, fluffy and like roundish. So the Protea is perfect for that.
Thanks.
Thanks. Let's take a look at Julia's here.
Yeah, that is
That's a
gorgeous.
beautiful
That's
arrangement.
beautiful.
And you don't have any problems with all those ugly stems showing in the bottom?
I personally don't, but if you do have a problem with stems, or you don't necessarily want to see stems, there's a couple of things that you can do. You could always go in and you could go in with like big tropical leaves or bear grass, and you can line your container with that first, or subsequently you could go in afterwards and you can wrap the base of your container with either some ribbon, or you could go in with, again, some big tropical leaves if you're just doing something for like a 1 or 2 day dinner party or something like that. And you could go in with leaves, or you could always just go in with some smaller, shorter bases that you fill in with like extra greenery or something like that. But I personally don't mind the stuff.
Okay, I'll go with your assessment.
But that looks gorgeous.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you for sharing that. And while I'm going to pull up, I know that Sylvia's been waiting, but while I pull up Sylvia's, we do have another question in the chat. Would you use drops of bleach in the water to control bacteria?
So that is what those little floral packet things are. It's typically just like a little bit of bleach and a little bit of sugar. The sugar helps to give the flowers a little bit of oomph. And then the bleach is something to control it. You just want to make sure that you do not go heavy-handed on the bleach. So really like just like a little drop or two of bleach, and that will go a long way.
Thanks. And now we've got Sylvia's arrangement spotlighted here.
And that looks beautiful.
Oh, thank you. This was so much fun. It was so different than the others that we've done with the different container and the cherry blossoms. I just love it. I feel like I've learned a whole different set of ideas now.
Yeah, and that was kind of the thinking. Is it's like, you know, we always are doing, you know, the chicken wire and sort of like these compote bowls and things like that. So I thought it would be fun, especially because we were doing branches, that you did want something that was going to be a little bit taller to support the branches. So, and then I was like, you know, we'll be able to do this without chicken wire. So yeah, great. I'm glad that you glad that you appreciated that.
Thank you. Yeah,
Right.
It's great.
And I think Shelley now has hers available to show us.
Oh, wonderful.
like
I'm
that.
outside, so I don't know if you can see it well.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a clear container that was the right shape, but I have this one that's painted, but the colors kind of match.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. And it's, you know, really, it's more about just sort of trying to capture that idea of spring, you know, on your dining room table or wherever you want to sit. So it really is more about the flowers than, you know, the container more than anything else, and the colors as well. But that looks gorgeous.
Thank you. It was really this is really fun. Like I couldn't find, my store was out of daffodils, so I wound up just getting 2 different kinds of tulips. I, you know, had to wing it on the hyacinth.
But I love that you have dogwood in there. I mean, that's gorgeous.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, it's really just kind of like capturing the feel of spring.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And I think, so the other camera I saw on was Nancy's camera. Nancy, did you want to share? Or I wasn't sure if you wanted to share or not. Yes?
Hello. Oh, you're on mute.
Oh, did
There
you
you
not
go.
want to share yours? Sorry.
No,
Okay,
that's
okay,
fine.
Great.
I'm just trying to get the container to be visible on the camera.
Oh.
Let's see what we can do here. There we go.
Oh yeah, gorgeous.
Pretty. What nice
I really love, it
colors.
feels like spring, and you use the forsythia, which is fantastic for the
Forsythia,
alternative.
the branch.
Yeah. Oh, I love the orange and the yellow together too. Feels very
Right.
cheerful.
Yeah.
Yes. That was really fun to do it in a glass container like that. I enjoyed that.
Good, excellent. Well, it looks gorgeous.
Thanks.
Well, those were really beautiful, seeing everybody's arrangements. Definitely gets us ready for spring and welcoming spring, which the last few days have been maybe bordering on summer a little
Yeah.
bit with with the temperatures here. So thank you everybody for joining us. Is there anybody I missed before we wrap up and sign off who wanted to share? I see Julia.
What's the next class, Amy?
Oh, so the next one we are going to be doing a arrangement inspired by a painting that we have here in our collection. So it's the Beloved Child painting, if you're familiar with that painting here at Hillwood. So it's going to be very much sort of, you know, in, I would say, the May theme of roses and what's in the painting with a color palette as well. So we'll be in like a pink color palette. And if you get a chance, you should look up you can look up at the, on the website, and you'll see the painting that will be inspired by to do it as well. So yeah, I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Good.
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that, because that was actually what I was going to say next before I signed us off. And I've just put in the chat a link for anyone who would like to link and see more about that floral design workshop, which will be on Friday, May 19th, our next one next month. So there's a link there with more information and a link to information about our current exhibitions. We hope we'll see you at Hillwood soon. Those azaleas Amy was talking about are really bursting into bloom right now.
They are, they're amazing.
And the tulips are still out too. It is a
Yep.
gorgeous time to come. So thank you all for joining us on this Friday afternoon, and I hope we'll see you all again soon. Have a wonderful Friday and weekend.
Right,
Thank you.
Thank you so
everyone.
much. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.